Advocacy is an act of love for others and ourselves, and mock resilience and purpose. This is AMI Audiobook Review. I'm your host, Jacob Szymanski. Resilience and Purpose is a short but tidy little memoir and practical guide on perseverance and self-advocacy by author Anne Mock. Anne Mock is a visually impaired storyteller and advocate. And this is her first published work of nonfiction. Anne, thank you so much for making time.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on today. I'm so excited to be part of this talk and really share my story.
So I know there's a lot to tell, but can you tell us a bit more about your story and like what led you up to writing this book?
Sure. So I am an Asian Canadian female living just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia. And my parents immigrated to Canada when I was just 2 years old. So I've always kind of felt never really fitting in. And that's just sort of been an underlying thing that's been throughout my life, and never understanding why. I always thought maybe it's my culture, um, but I also was struggling with vision loss and didn't know how much it was affecting me. So and I'm a mom of 3 kids, and just living life. And it wasn't until it was their busiest season of their lives that I noticed that I wasn't able to see what I know I should be able to see. And it led me on a long journey, 8 years, of trying to discover what was going on with my vision. And then suddenly I was diagnosed with an inherited retinal condition called cone rod dystrophy, and lived a double life, uh, being sighted, but I could see, but I couldn't see, and really struggling in my job and my identity and the things that were happening. Prior to this, my husband had also suffered a stroke, so I was the primary breadwinner for many years, and while also juggling the vision loss. Um, just as I was ready to tell my employer that I was having vision loss, I did speak with them, and I managed to get accommodations. But a few months later, I woke up with this migraine-like headache that I actually still have today, and I was diagnosed with something called new daily persistent headache. So it's basically where I have a headache every day, and I still have it today as we're speaking. My life really fell into a black hole at that point. I lost my job. I lost my sense of self. I wasn't able to see, and I didn't know who I was anymore. But it was actually through finding community, the vision loss community, and connecting with others that I began to find light and hope, and is how I ended up here today. And I would say today that I'm really living my best life. Um, and the book chronicles those chapters in my life that were the deepest and darkest, but it's in between those chapters, those light, that I found a new purpose. And I've been able to have the most incredible life today.
And you're very active on social media and you do public speaking on top of this book, Resilience and Purpose, that you just released. And you wouldn't be doing all of this unless you had something to say, a message to put out there that needs to be said. So what do you see as the main message that you're trying to put out there? Like, what's the challenge that you're addressing here?
The my main message is I never want anyone to feel how I felt. in any of those chapters in my life.
Hmm.
So I really want to show that there is light through the darkness. It's not about getting over it or overcoming it, but really about carving a new path and living your life to your fullest, whatever that might be, and finding that. And when you find that, you have such a light that you can impact others and create that ripple effect. And that is something that I want to share, and that there is light through all this darkness. And holding on to that, connecting with others, and sharing that light going forward.
And I read the book Resilience and Perseverance, and you were very honest and down to earth about your lowest of lows. And I'm wondering how you reflect on those times yourself. Like nowadays, like you said, you're feeling much better about
Yes.
yourself and what you're doing with your work and what you've how you've like turned your life around essentially.
Mhm.
Like how do you look back on those days when you're at your lowest of lows?
I I look back on those days, and the image that hits me the hardest is lying in bed in the darkness, with nothing in me. And in those times, I'd wish that, or I'd hope that I could find my way out of that hole. That feeling of drowning, of suffocating, of loss, of grief. Um, and the thread that sort of helped pull me out of it was really thinking of my children. And I didn't want them to see their mother like this, and for me, for them to see me give up on
Mm,
life. Because I thought of them as, when they go through hard times, we all go through hard times. What is it that can help? And I wanted them to know that, okay, my eye condition, it's genetic, but it's not gonna write my story. I'm still the author of my story. I could make that change. And I wanted them to know that through whatever hard time they may go through, is to tap into that resilience and know that this feeling, valid, is temporary, and there is hope, and you can climb out of it. So, and I wanted them to have that knowledge that they could get through that. Um, and it was also a time where um, I write about the loss of my mom, who has, that in itself has impacted me greatly. And when I look on today, after having written the book, I realized that that book, writing it, was the hug that I needed from my mom to know that I would be okay. And so this book is passed
mm.
on to my children in that same hug.
And that's the thing with disability is that it does affect the people around you because you
Yeah.
mentioned your children and you mentioned your husband as well.
Mm.
It's one of those things about disability that we don't often talk about, but you're very honest about it in this short memoir, and I really appreciated that little bit. But a big part of your story and how you came out of those lowest of lows that you described earlier was social media.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
think a lot of people see social media as something that's generally pretty negative. And I mean, like negative to humanity generally. And clearly you saw some positivity in it. Like, do you want to get into that story?
Sure, absolutely. Um, I think, well, the main reason why I got through social media was when I was lying in that darkness, I really had realized that uh, websites were inaccessible for the blind and visually impaired community. And this even magnified during the pandemic. And it was a really affecting how we do things. And I also saw, small businesses struggling. And in that moment, I wanted to find some way
Mm,
to help, being trapped in this darkness. Um, there was a part of me that I still wanted to find find meaning and find some way to help. And I chose social media. I chose Instagram because it was a visual medium. And in my head, I just wanted to challenge that. I wanted to show that I I still enjoy visual aspects. I love shopping. I love, home decor, interior design, and things like that. And it does just because I've lost a vision doesn't mean that I don't still love those things and that I enjoy those things. And so I really wanted to show
Mm,
that I could really still see beauty and beauty can still be seen and we can make it accessible. And it's through that I was showing, I go shopping because I still like to do that, shop, and then I would tag the
mm,
company and the product. And amazingly, this community started to build. People became interested in me doing alt text and image descriptions and how a person with vision loss can still take photos and enjoy taking photos. So I really wanted to break down those stereotypes. And in it, I also wanted to still connect with others because I was stuck in the darkness. And I wanted to find someone that had my rare eye condition because I wanted to know, are people surviving? But not only are they surviving, are they thriving? A- And that was really my thing. I wanted to know how to thrive in all of this. And I also wanted to find someone that had my same headache condition because both of these were these rare conditions. And I haven't really found too many people with my headache condition, probably maybe 3 or 4 people. But in the vision loss community, that's where we really started to connect. And I find with the vision loss community, they are the kindest people. And they once you meet one,
mm.
you start connecting with another one, and we just continually build community and support each other.
Yes.
And, that was my lifeline, um, connecting with others who just got me. I have family at home, and they're lovely and they're supportive, but they don't understand, you know, exactly what I'm going through. And when I say, don't say it's over there, right? So, actually giving me a description of where it is. So that is where community really came together. And it was actually through iDesign, Alexa. She connected with me. She had seen my story and she wanted to learn more about me. And then it's at that point I was the first person on her community blog. And then my life just sort of grew after that. And it was there that Purdy's saw and read my blog, and then I was part of their
Huh,
holiday braille box. So in within a year of me being
that's
on social
awesome.
media, yeah, it just it was like one path opened up in front of another.
So it was you putting your story out there that really got people to come to you almost. Like you
Y-
did seek out that connection with people, but it's you reaching out that had more people coming in your direction than the other way around. And
yes,
it's almost like a stereotype that blind people and even other disability communities that they have a bunch of online friends with that same condition. Like it's not really a stereotype. It's just kind of true. But in
yeah,
your case, you reached out on social media. And so that reaching out was just more so than what most people are doing at this point in the disability community. And I wanted to bring up that in the book, Resilience and Purpose, you include key takeaways and mini lessons and lessons learned and like practical advice that you base off at the end of each chapter essentially.
mhm, right.
Like, why was it important for you to include these? Like, it's very practical as a book.
Thank you. I put those in mainly when I was initially writing the book. Back when I was laying in bed and I was searching for, people who were like me, I'd come across this one person who had written a book about her headache condition. And all I wanted to know was like, is she okay? Did she did did it ever go away? Right? And so I
Right.
would just like keep going through chapter after chapter of the book. And the whole book spanned 15 years. And at the end, she never um, was cured. And I found it was hard reading it because I knew that was going to be my life. She had tried every single thing under the sun, moon, stars, like but there was just no um, cure for it. And I know that I realized I didn't want to waste my life continually trying. So I needed to get to that acceptance phase and to live my life as it is as it is today, with the pain, and not constantly trying to fight it off, but to live with it. Um, so that was sort of the thought behind process about my book. Um, it wasn't that there was supposed to be a cure or an answer to everything, but there was a lot of reflection. Um, and I wanted people to, because I know they're going to try to get to the end, like, is she okay? But also to come back to the book at different stages in their life, if they're going through grief, um, relationship struggles, uh, the vision loss journey, the chronic illness journey, to find that chapter. But okay, here I am in this chapter. Let's jog some thinking so that I can get through, you know, and carve out this new path of life for myself. So I always wanted it to be something that you could always refer back to, because you may not go through all those chapters that I went through, but there might be something in there that speaks to you, and how could you use it to um, in your own life?
And these reflections that you have at the end of the chapters, they very much engage with the reader directly, asking the reader, like, think of the challenges you have in your life. How have
Yeah.
you adapted? How have you let them bring you down? And then,
Mhm.
like, the lessons you can learn from this previous chapter is X, Y, and Z. And then, like I said, it's very,
Yes.
very practical.
Yeah.
And there are these paragraphs of practical lessons to be learned after every chapter. But if you had to boil down the entire book
Mhm.
into a practical lesson, a message you want to impart with your readers, what would that be?
Let me see. I think I have it here too. In one of my closing reflections, I say that the journey from darkness to light isn't about erasing the pain or forgetting it, but it's about turning those struggles into transformation, and making it meaningful. And so that's the key message, is that although these were very difficult times, I would never
Mhm.
um, erase them, because they were the framework and the groundwork to help me be the person today. And I realized that that person was always there, but it was covered up by the darkness. And now I'm living me as me, fully, and embracing all those parts of me that make me. All of those challenges have made me the person that I am today, and how I view life, and my perspective, and just being open about it.
I like what you said earlier too. It's about thriving, not surviving, and there's a
Yeah.
big difference. And that's a
Yes.
theme that I get through a lot of this book. It's one thing to just be alive, right? Like it's another thing to actually enjoy life in spite of your challenges, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
about like the process of writing the book itself, and I love asking this to authors, especially new authors. How did you work with an editor, if at all? And if you didn't have an editor, did people proofread it? Did people go through it? How did that feedback look?
So I finished. I had 1 year to write the book, and there were in times in between where the publisher was there for any questions. I didn't have too much questions going through, but at the end, when I finished it, they sent it off to the editor, and it went through um, one or two rounds. of editing, but there wasn't
Mm,
a whole lot. They were very happy actually with the book, very happy with the reflections
mm.
through each. And so it was a very positive experience. They just helped to, clean up some words, or if I was repetitive in any area, then that was it. But other than that, the whole process itself, and working with a publisher was incredibly positive. And that was something that, with a disability vision loss, you're not sure. And are they keeping the true essence of what you're saying? And that was definitely there for me.
Was it hard to accept that they wanted to change your body of work? Like, I know it can be like a hit to the ego when they tell you, this part wasn't quite what it should be." Like, it is kinda hard to accept that other people can have input on this.
Yes. They were actually fine. There wasn't a whole lot of change to the body of the work. It was just maybe some sentence structure. It wasn't too much.
Mm.
I think the hardest was actually letting this out
That's
into the
rare.
world.
You don't hear that too often.
Yeah, yeah. The hardest part was actually just letting this out into the world because it is so personal for me, and I don't talk a lot about, my grief or even my husband's, stroke. On my social media, it's mainly about
Mm.
myself and my vision loss. I don't even talk about my children or anything like that. So it was really hard to really be open and very vulnerable, and part of, publishing a book was to make sure that I try to get reviews, and so asking people for reviews and then reading their reviews, that was scary for me because I really I'm just happy of just, like, have
Oh,
quietly released this out into the world, but you never know what people, might think of you or your writing or whatever it is, but I've received very positive feedback, and, um, that has helped me to recognize that vulnerability and sharing your story is so important, and, you never know how it can impact others, so yeah.
there are lots of people with disabilities out there, and it's only a tiny fraction of those people
Mhm.
with disabilities that decide to put their story out there for the purposes of advocacy, because it takes a lot of openness
Mhm.
and willingness to be vulnerable in front of people to share your story like that. And like I mentioned earlier, like it's challenging to talk about your lowest of lows. It can be um like, I don't wanna show people, like, the toughest times in my life, right?
Yeah,
Like, especially if you're an introverted person, it's a difficult thing to do, but it's incredibly valuable for the
yes,
cause of advocacy. And now that
exactly.
you've gotten the taste for writing, do you think you'll keep writing?
Absolutely, and I realized that I was good at writing when after my mom passed away, writing the eulogy at her funeral,
Mm.
and I feel that, that is a gift that I didn't realize that I had, and that I could tap into, and even by continuing on social media, sharing my story, visual storytelling, and participating in writing in blog posts or articles, I think that is the continual way that I can continue um, showing up, advocating, and letting the community know that anything is possible. Something that you never dreamed of, it is completely possible, and sometimes the path that you thought ended, it creates this whole other path that you never dreamed of, and it actually turns out way better.
Yeah, so true. I would be remiss if I didn't give you the opportunity to, plug your socials, seeing as it's such a big part of your life and your recovery, your adaptation. How can people find you on socials?
You can find me on my Instagram at Purpose and View. Uh, I'm also on TikTok, but very rarely. And my website is purposeandview.com. I had a TED Talk that I did, so you can find that on YouTube. And the TED Talk is called Anne Mock, Blindsided. And I was recently part of a Kia worldwide commercial where using the sensors on the Kia vehicle, it would create music that would tell you about the landscape around you. So definitely check that out. It's on Kia Worldwide. It's
Wow.
called Anne's Journey with Soundscape.
That's so cool. All right, we'll make sure to include a bunch of those links in the podcast and YouTube description. And
Thank you.
thank you so much for your time, and good luck on your social media journey.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here.
Of course. That was Anne Mock. Anne Mock is a visually impaired digital storyteller and advocate, and the author of Resilience and Purpose. That's all the time we have for this edition of AMI Audiobook Review. AMI Audiobook Review airs weekends at 1 p.m. Eastern on AMI Audio and repeats every 6 hours. But we also make ourselves easy to find. We're on all the big podcasting platforms, and that includes YouTube. You can send us feedback emails at audiobookreview@ami.ca. That's audiobookreview@ami.ca. We always love to hear your feedback. You can also follow us on our socials. We are on Instagram at AMI Audiobook Review. That's at AMI Audiobook Review. It is not just for plugging the next episode. We're posting reels of our best moments on this show and exclusive content as well. Thanks for tuning into AMI Audiobook Review. I'm your host, Jacob Szymanski. Happy listening.